Hi there, thank you for joining me to chat about this latest episode of My 600-Pound Life, Season 12, Episode 2. If you're a fan of the show, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and also let me know your thoughts on the episode. So, in this episode, we meet William. He is 34 from Round Rock, Texas. At the beginning of the episode, we see where his weight is 620 pounds. We see where he's in bed, and he says, based on his weight, it's hard for him to get out of bed. He mentions body pain and all that, and he says sometimes it's just easier. Sometimes he just wants to stay in bed, and it's easier and more relaxing for him to just lay in bed and play video games. So we see where he has to go shower, the scene that they always do. And, in looking at him without seeing his body, you wouldn't really think that he's weighs this much, or you wouldn't think that he's carrying this massive belly, because in his face you could tell he's kind of, it might be a little overweight, but you wouldn't think just looking at a headshot the extent of his weight. And I'm surprised at how mobile he is. He moves around pretty good, unlike a lot of other folks that we've seen in the past, where at this weight they need to have a wheelchair for the most part or to do certain things. But I was surprised at how mobile he is. But anyway, we see where he says that, it's hard for him to do certain things because his stomach and it's in the way. And he says, on a bad day, it takes him like 5 minutes to shower. And I'm like, what? 5 minutes on a bad day? That you would think that it would be 5 minutes on a good day. But we do see that he says how it's hard for him to, wash himself properly. And we see where when he did the shower, he just did on the surface. Like, he didn't get under his stomach and it's hanging down. So, yeah, he doesn't wash himself very well. And he says that, he kind of stays home. He doesn't want to go out. He has a fear of, being stinky. So I guess he'd rather just stay home and play video games. He doesn't really leave his apartment except to go shopping. And he says how he gets winded very easily. So, a lot of times when he goes out, try to get some exercise, that, he's so winded that he has to turn around and come back. Now, he says that he always had a big appetite, but he says he always played sports, so maybe that offset the weight gain. But looking at his baby pictures, he looks like he was on the smaller side, and then also as a kid, his weight was normal. Even the picture that was shown of him in high school, he was at like a normal weight. But he says that he started eating, I guess using food as some kind of coping mechanism in middle school. He says that he became moody, and he had a temper, and he would get into fights. He also said that there were periods of time that he would feel different, and he attributed this to having depression. He talks about it being a part of the reason that he turned to food. But it's unclear as to whether this is him self-diagnosing, or if this was really a case where he was diagnosed with depression. I know his mom didn't really mention depression, so I have a feeling that maybe it's him saying he was depressed. And it could very well be, but maybe it wasn't, a professional who says, yeah, you're suffering from depression, to be able to give him medication to possibly get him out of a funk that he was in. He said that he tore his ACL at some point, and he says by the time that he was in his senior year of high school that it was healed, but by then he had been depressed. Over the period of the time that he was not mobile due to his ACL injury, he would eat a lot and play video games, and by the time that healed, he was kind of tired of sports and wasn't really motivated to do anything, which he again attributes to having depression or being depressed. So after high school, he said he went to Job Corps, where he did security for armed and unarmed security, and also got certified to work in corrections. He says that this was during the time at Job Corps that he met somebody who was similarly overweight, and so they kind of connected. That they, do stuff together. And this girl that he met in Job Corps, after 3 months of meeting her, he decides to get married. So his mom says, yeah, she tried to do everything to convince him not to do that, to maybe try to live together first. But the mom says that the girl's mom was pushing them to get married. And so he ended up getting married, and then they moved to Colorado, where he was working security. He said that he quickly realized that security wasn't really what he wanted to do and said he was exploring other options. He wanted to possibly do video game programming or something like that. And that was around the time that, his marriage ended. I'm not sure if when he said he was exploring other things to do, if he was actually out of work at that point. But he said that they were together for 5 years, and then he says that they realized that they were no longer in love. And so they pretty much signed the divorce papers and it was done. So he said that he moved back because it was so expensive to live in Colorado, and so he was living in a hotel and he was working the night shift doing customer service, kind of a work from home type of position. Now he says that at nights that the phone system wouldn't work properly, and so he ended up getting fired along with, I guess, he's alluding to the fact that the people who were having phone problems overnight were the ones who got fired. So I don't know if this is the truth or if it's just an excuse of his or an omission or, him trying not to tell the real reason why he was terminated. But this is the reason that he's giving. So after he got fired, he moved out of the hotel, he says. And so we see where he's living in an apartment now. His mom says that he uses food as a coping mechanism. And he says that he realized that he had a food addiction. He says that he used to go to the gym and try to walk on the treadmill, but he felt like people were looking at him. And on top of it, he wasn't losing any weight, so he kind of gave up. But he did suggest that maybe, him thinking that people were looking at him was all in his head. But also possibly it's a reason, based on what we would see throughout the episode, for him to, go home and eat, because that's his thing that he does. So whenever he doesn't want to do something, he makes excuses. So we see where his mom comes over and she's going to cook him breakfast. He feels like, well, he's at the point, he says, where because of the body pains, his mom comes over to cook for him. So we see where his mom is in the kitchen making eggs, and I don't know if it's potatoes, but it looks as though his mom had to have made like a dozen eggs. There were so much eggs in this thing. And then, so she brings out the food and he's sitting on the sofa and she brings it out, a big old plate of eggs and whatnot. Plus she brings out a bag of tortilla shells. So he's making like burritos and he's just slinging them down. And then after a while, his mom's like, when he was almost on the last one, he's like, "Do you want more, Willie?" I don't know why she offered him more. But she had said that, she doesn't really see a whole lot of joy in him. And so whenever he eats, I guess she's trying to see some joy in him. Maybe that's why she feeds him. But on the other hand, she's the one who also busts him about his eating habits and stuff when he tries to lie. So, I guess she's maybe kind of conflicted about this whole situation that's going on with him. So then she asked if he wanted more, and he said yes. He had already eaten a ton of food, and so now he pretty much brought the pot, which had a sizable amount of food still in it, and he's still eating. He must have eaten like the whole bag of probably 20 burritos, 20 tortillas, and a big old thing of food. And I was just like, oh my gosh. He just decimated the food. It was just insane how much food he ate. So after they ate, she asked if he wanted to go to the store. They do the obligatory store visit. He goes to the store and there's no sign of anything healthy in the cart whatsoever. He says he cannot drive due to his belly, so his mom has to drive him wherever he needs to go. So mom is pretty much like, I don't know, the driver, the chef. I didn't see her clean up his apartment, his apartment was pretty clean. I was surprised by that because usually, the places tend to be in disarray. So it seems like he's doing the cleaning up for himself, which is good. So they go to the grocery store, which seems like they were driving for hours and hours to get to. But they do their shopping, they get back. As soon as he gets home, there are 2 pizzas in the oven. He literally, as soon as he walked in the door. So then he sits down to eat. He had 2 pizzas, and then he pretty much emptied out a whole container of Pringles on top of the pizza. And I don't know if he was using the pizza as a plate or if pizza and chips are a thing. Tell me, do you eat pizza and chips? I was just like, shocked that he was eating chips on top of the two pizzas. So he goes on to talk about his depression, and he's once again attributing this to his eating habits. He does admit, though, that he was not ready to give food up, but he knows that he needs to get some help. William says that he has a fear of dying young, and so he really needs to do something. And he says he's been dieting for a few weeks now, and so he's hoping that he will lose some weight. His mom is scared that he's not going to follow through with, whatever Dr. Now asked him to do. And I wonder why she was saying that. But as we go through the episode, we kind of see she knows what she's been dealing with him. We kind of see why she probably was a little bit cynical. So they're on their way to go see Dr. Now. In the car, he says that his mom is being uptight about the whole thing, and he's not going to let her stress him out. To me, it seems as though he wasn't really taking it as seriously as he should, because, she's concerned about his health and he thinks that she's being uptight. So there is a little bit of a disconnect, and I don't know if it's because he's still moving around, why he's not really taking things as seriously as he should, or what. So anyway, they get to Dr. Now's office, and he does his weighing. He comes in at 592 pounds. So he has lost some weight. Whatever it was that he was doing before he came to see Dr. Now, it seems as though he has been losing some weight. So Dr. Now comes in, does his little intro, and he asks what his highest weight was. He says 620 a few months ago. Dr. Now asked him about his job, and he told him he just lost his job and he's looking for something else. Now, we haven't seen where he's been looking for any jobs. Nothing that was filmed anyway, so I just wonder if he was really looking, or he's just saying that to Dr. Now just because he asked. So Dr. Now asked him if he eats out or if he's eating at home. He tells Dr. Now that he eats at home because he feels better and it's more healthy, and his mom was like, no you don't. Mom gives a look, and Dr. Now is like, Mom doesn't agree with what you're saying. And his mom goes on to tell Dr. Now how he buys a bunch of junk, frozen burritos, frozen wings, ice cream, you name it, he's buying it. So he says, but I haven't bought all that stuff in about 2 weeks. So his mom was like, 2 weeks, but she didn't really say anything else. So I have a feeling that he's lying about that too. So Dr. Now asks how motivated he is to make change, and he claims that he is. And so when Dr. Now is wrapping up the visit, he asks if there are any questions. So his mom brings up the fact that she's concerned about his belly because it's all red and he's got sores on it. And yeah, this part was kind of hard to watch. And I found it funny that Dr. Now asked to seat, but he stood right over by the door. He had a good distance between him and the belly. I just found that funny. Not that he had a problem, but how Dr. Now was standing far apart from where he was. But anyway, so he has sores on his belly, and Dr. Now says he's going to prescribe some medication for it. And then he also asked him to lift up his belly. So it looks like he has fungal infection under his belly. So Dr. Now is going to prescribe something for that. Now, I just wondered in seeing this why he wasn't the one to bring this up to he just doesn't seem concerned about anything, or as concerned as he should. He's relying on his mom for everything. His mom is the one who's bringing up this, but it's his body, and he's the one who's, has to deal with this. Why aren't you concerned about the fact that you have all these sores on your belly? So anyway, Dr. Now lets him know the plan, that, he has to follow the diet, and when he loses enough weight, then they could do the surgery. And then eventually they would do the surgery to get rid of any loose skin that he has, so that will help his posture and everything like that. After the visit, Dr. Now in his confessional says, he doesn't really believe that William is ready to make any change. He's not being honest. Dr. Now thinks that him and his mom has a kind of a dysfunctional relationship because they're both enabling the unhealthy behavior and food choices, which he feels like they will eventually need to address. So William has a goal of 70 pounds in 2 months. William thinks that the goal is manageable, but he says that he'll probably slip up because everyone is human. Now we know that William is playing, because why would you say that? Why would you now give yourself a way out, basically? So if I don't meet the goal, then I'm human. I didn't think I was going to meet it, so how can you be mad at me because I'm human? So I knew I knew something was going to happen because he's given himself this out. So his mom admits that she seems to want the weight loss more than William does, more than he wants it for himself, which seems to be the case. He's kind of sort of in, sort of out of the whole thing. He's not really as committed as he should be, but he says that he's going to follow the plan and he wants to be a success story for Dr. Now. Why for Dr. Now? How about you do this for yourself and for your well-being and for your longevity on earth? He's just saying things, it seems. So month 2, we see where William has been on the diet. He's doing his exercises. He says he's going to be doing his exercises as soon as he gets back. We see him on the sofa. He's drinking water and he's doing his exercise on the sofa. So I'm like, okay, well, that's good. He's complaining about how hard the exercises are. But we see him head out from his apartment to go for a walk. And as he goes for a walk, his breathing is just really pronounced. Like you can hear how winded he is. And I was just concerned about him going out into the neighborhood by himself. I don't know if it's safe, can he make it back? But it's good that he's taking the steps. It seemed promising that he was going out to do his exercise. So he says, he gets back and he says that when he's done with his exercise, that's when he gets most hungry and he eats more than he should. So now he's acknowledging this, but at the same time, he proceeds to overeat. He calls his mom to get him some salads, but that's good. At least he's having salads. So his mom comes over and brings salads. He says the portion sizes are larger than he should have, but the diet that Dr. Now has him on, he's always hungry. So he decides to pretty much make his own portion sizes. He has 2 salads. They're pretty sizable. And then he proceeds to douse them with ranch dressing. So already he's deviating from the plan that he's supposed to do, that he said he was going to follow. So later on we see William, he's working, and I was shocked to see that William is working at a fast food restaurant. Now I understand that, if you have bills to pay and you have to do what you need to do, but I was just surprised that this is where he was working. So we see where he's taking orders and whatnot. We don't see where he's indulging in the food. We don't see him eat or drink anything there. So I had a little bit of hope that maybe he was staying disciplined and, he wasn't eating any junk food. So month 4, we see where they head back to see Dr. Now for a second time. William says he feels lighter. He has no idea if he's met his goals or not, but he's hoping that he'll be in the low 500s. He says he should be down to 522 pounds, but when he gets on the scale, he is at 580 pounds. Yeah. He said that he lost weight before coming to Dr. Now, and if we include that weight loss, his weight loss is impressive. Really? No, sir. You cannot backtrack on the weight loss. He started the program at 592. That's the starting weight. And he says that any weight loss is good weight loss. 18 pounds is a far cry from 70 pounds. So I was curious to see how this was going to go down with Dr. Now. Dr. Now comes in and he says it's been 3 months. I thought I wouldn't see you again. It's like, I've been busy. I've been working. Dr. Now asked, so where have you been working? He told him that he's working at a fast food place. Now, Dr. Now says you've lost a whole 12 pounds in 3 months. That's 4 pounds a month. Dr. Now tells him he lost a hamburger per month, and William starts to laugh. Dr. Now is like, you think that's funny? He's like, no. He says, it's the soda. I haven't really fully given it up. He also tells Dr. Now that he's looking for other meal ideas to help him lose the weight. Dr. Now says, so I gave you a diet plan to follow and you're looking for other options to lose weight. So what's your objective in coming here? You want us to make you lose weight magically? Dr. Now lights him up. So he asks him what he's going to do now. William says he's going to keep trying and follow the diet stricter. Dr. Now tells him that he needs to do better. No, Dr. Now says that William says he's going to try to do better, but he's just giving figure of speeches. He says, do you think that I'm going to pat you on the back for trying to do better? Oh, cut back a little soda, you're going to be okay? Dr. Now says, I'm not buying that. If you're expecting sympathy and expecting you cutting back on a little bit of soda, that I'm going to be cheering and giving you a trophy for this, I don't think so. So Dr. Now asks the mom, like, what's up? You're supposed to help him. Mom says he needs to give more thought to what he puts in his mouth. He needs to be more focused. And Dr. Now says, I see both of you seem to have figure of speeches down, but what's the solution? I was like, oh my gosh, Dr. Now. Dr. Now has come with the smoke for the mom too. So the mom says that he needs to eat, instead of eating burger and nuggets at work, he needs to get a salad at work. So it seems like the mom knew he was sneaking and eating fast food. So Dr. Now basically says, you need to follow the diet that I've given you 3 months ago. He says that, I gave you the diet 3 months ago. It didn't translate to any meaningful change. So what do you think is going to be different this time? William has the nerve to get smart with Dr. Now. He says, you guys are acting like I didn't lose any weight. Dr. Now says, what? You lost 12 pounds in 3 months. Do you think that's a victory lap? 12 pounds is nothing. You should have lost that in a week. Oh, Dr. Now is not playing with him. Dr. Now says, you keep playing games and you're killing yourself with food. And he says, if that's how you're going to approach this, then there's nothing more we can do. He says that, William says that he hasn't been following the diet to a T, but he's been trying to make little changes and he hasn't been gorging himself with food. Dr. Now challenges him and says, why, if you're following the diet, then why would you only lose 12 pounds in 3 months? So William gets defensive and says, well, I'm not the doctor. I'm not inside my body. I don't know. I'm like, really? Are you seriously getting smart with Dr. Now right now? So Dr. Now says, well, I'm the doctor and I can tell you why. You're lying to yourself and you're lying to me. William says, well, it's not that. He says, Dr. Now tells him that he needs to, he says he hasn't been following the diet completely. And Dr. Now tells him that I don't believe what you're saying. She doesn't believe you. And the mom says, all you're doing is making excuses. His mom starts to tear up because he's carrying all this weight and has been carrying all this weight for like 10 years. And he won't listen and he won't stop. Everybody's sacrificing and he's not doing what he's supposed to do. William claims that he's made a lot of changes but he hasn't changed what he's been putting in his body. And then he goes on to tell Dr. Now that he's been only eating once a day. Dr. Now says, stop defending your eating habits because no one believes you. Dr. Now says, you can say whatever you want, but the scale doesn't lie. And he keeps saying things. You said you can keep saying things, you eat once a day, blah, blah, blah. Go argue with the scale. Don't kid yourself. I don't mean to laugh, but Dr. Now is on fire. He is not playing today. So Dr. Now wraps up the visit and tells him to lose some weight or don't come back. So Dr. Now says he doesn't believe what he's selling. Dr. Now says doesn't believe that William intends to change. And William is just spinning stories to manipulate people into thinking that he's trying. But every day that he's not doing what he needs to do is a day closer to his body giving out. William, after the visit, says he will do better and he's going to prove to everybody that he's going to make the change. All right, so we'll see. Month 5. So we see where him and his mom are in the kitchen. They're cooking. We do see a noticeable difference in what's in the house. They have fruits around. The mom's making eggs. William's making a smoothie. But he's saying, and he's still saying the wrong things. He's saying that any weight loss is good weight loss. So here we go again. And when he said that, in my head, I was wondering if he's still sneaking and eating fast food. William says that as long as he's losing weight, he doesn't care about what anybody thinks. And his mom tells him that he needs to focus on the goal that Dr. Now gives him, and tells him that a loss of a few pounds here and there is not good enough. And he had the nerve to say, sure it is. Yeah, this is going nowhere fast. So his mom says that he's not listening and he's blowing her off. It's like in one ear, out the other. After breakfast, William says he's going to play basketball before he goes to work. So is this the workout program now? I hope this is something that he's doing in addition to what Dr. Now gives him to do for his workouts. But we see where he goes to the park and throws some balls around, and then I guess that was the end of the workout. So he says that his last visit was a disappointment, so he's going to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So month 6, we see where they're heading back to see Dr. Now, and during the car ride, his mom asked him about the diet. How's it been going? He says he's been sticking to the diet closer. And William goes on to say that he had a pizza last week, but he justifies this by saying that he ate it over a couple days and that he didn't finish the whole thing because he had left it out and it went bad. Granted, this is an improvement on how he had been eating in the past, but this is not a part of the Dr. Now plan, so I could see this is heading for disaster. So you would think that after the conversation that he had with Dr. Now the last time that he wouldn't dare indulge in any junk food, but nope, he is eating pizza. So he says he hoped that he's lost enough weight to make Dr. Now happy. So in him saying this, I'm like, this guy is not serious. Why are you talking about making Dr. Now happy? You're the person with the problem. It's your body and it's your heart that's under pressure. You're the one who needs to lose the weight, but you're talking about making Dr. Now happy. So if this wasn't foreboding enough, they get to Dr. Now's office. He does his weighing, and he comes in at 580 pounds. Now, he was supposed to be down to 510 by now. No. The last weighing was 580. So he's supposed to be down to 510 now because Dr. Now told him to lose 70 pounds. Now, lo and behold, he has gained 18 pounds, and he is baffled. He's like, what the heck? This doesn't make sense. The scale must not be working right. What? Then he said, unless it's the soda pop that I've been drinking. I haven't quite given that up. He's seriously playing with Dr. Now. So he says that he doesn't drink it at home anymore. But then when he's at work, he drinks it because it's easy. And I guess he gives into the temptation of drinking soda. But I doubt that it's just the soda that's causing him to gain that weight. So he's trying to blame it on the soda, but I have a feeling that he's eating junk food still while he's at work. So he goes on to say that maybe that's not the right job for him, which, yeah, if you can't resist the temptation being there, then yeah, it's not the right job. It's almost like having somebody who has a drinking problem working at a bar. It's just really hard to do. So once they're when they're back in the office, and after they did their weighing and talking, his mom starts to cry because she's really concerned about his health, and he doesn't seem to be, taking things seriously. He's not doing what he's supposed to do. But I wonder, if he really did lose weight at the beginning of the episode, because before you came to Dr. Now, if you lost 20 pounds, why aren't you losing weight now? And you were eating more than you were eating now, so what's really happening? So Dr. Now comes in and says, you've gained weight. What's up with that? So he says that him gaining weight is an eye-opener and that he's going to work harder. And he says he knows nobody believes him, but he's going to prove them wrong. Dr. Now says, you managed to lose 6 pounds in 6 months instead of 150 pounds. So you're eating whatever you want, so I don't want to hear the lip service, basically. So he advises him to maybe he wants to consider working somewhere else. Dr. Now didn't really go on him as hard as he did in the last visit, but Dr. Now doesn't believe him that he will really do anything different. And he tells him that pretty soon you won't be able to walk, you can't drive now, and you're going to be bedridden soon, and then your body's going to give out. Dr. Now told him that I don't know what you want me to tell you that I haven't told you before. And his mom busts him out and says there's no way that he's eating 1,200 calories. She says that he's probably eating at least 5,000 calories a day. So we didn't see that in the episode, but he must be sneaking and eating, because 5,000 calories, that's a lot. Even if you're, yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. So Dr. Now says, he doesn't want to listen to anyone, and he's not convinced of the lies. He tells William that, people, that he lies to people to get them off his case, and he doesn't want to lose weight, so there's nothing more that he can do. So his mom tries to get through to him. She's saying how he's carrying enough weight for 3 people, and his blood pressure is always already up, and that he's going to die if he doesn't do what he should be doing. He makes all the, expected responses, and, says he's going to do better as usual, but yeah, we don't know that he's going to, based on what he's been doing, and we don't know if he's going to take it seriously. But at this point, I was hoping that maybe he will really turn things around. So Dr. Now says he's going to give him one last chance. It's the same goal that he had before. And so Dr. Now is also going to set him up with a therapist, and tells him that if he doesn't lose the weight, there's nothing more he can do. Hint, hint, don't come back here, because he told you the last time, lose the weight or don't come back, but here you are and you're gaining weight. So Dr. Now says it's the same old things with William. He's playing games and telling lies, and he's delusional, and he can keep eating. He's just living in delusion. So he's hoping that with the therapy it will help William, but he's not really optimistic that William is going to make any changes. So later we see where William goes to see Dr. Paradise, who asks about his life, upbringing, weight gain, and he says he gained most of the weight after the divorce, which is contrary to what he was saying before. He told him how his ex-wife wanted a divorce, and he told her that she, would have to file the paperwork and pay all the fees. So Dr. Paradise was like, so you were just trying to make it difficult for her, huh? You were hoping that she would relent and stay. How'd that work out for you? So he says that they still ended up getting divorced, and Dr. Paradise was like, well, that's generally the case. Basically, you can't make anybody stay. So now, William had made it seem like, previously William had made it seem like it was an amicable split between the two. And when he was initially asked, he kind of, gave this story to make it seem like, oh, there was no drama, they just parted ways, because previously he had said that they had fallen out of love. So when Dr. Paradise circled back around to ask about the divorce, William went on to reveal that they hadn't been in touch. I think Dr. Paradise had asked him if he had been in touch with his ex-wife since they got divorced. He said no, they had blocked each other on social media, they haven't been in touch. And later, Dr. Paradise asked, so how did the divorce go down? And William tells how the wife dropped him off at the airport on his birthday. So Dr. Paradise was like, wait, hold up. So she packed your bags. She dropped you off in the airport, packed your things, and send you off? Basically, she dropped him off at the airport, and he came back home. I don't even know that his mom knows that this is how it went down. So Dr. Paradise brings up how he made it seem like it was an amicable divorce, and now he hears all this stuff. He feels like he's not always truthful. And then he brings up the similar deception with Dr. Now, and he made it seem like he's trying on the diet, but then he really wasn't. He brings up the issue with the soda, as if he's trying to blame Dr. Now, in a sense, because he told Dr. Paradise how he said he would cut back on the soda, but that Dr. Now didn't trust him. And he's trying to imply that because Dr. Now didn't trust him was why he was unable to follow through with his promise. Plus, soda was not in the diet plan anyway, and I remember Dr. Now had lit him up about the soda anyways. I don't know why he's bringing up the soda conversation with Dr. Now. But anyway, Dr. Paradise pointed out that, what he was saying was not really the truth, because he says people tend to not trust him. But Dr. Paradise is like, you do see how what you're saying is not really the truth, right? He says he didn't think that he was being deceptive in what he was telling Dr. Now, that he wasn't following the diet completely. He says that he feel like he was following the diet the best he could, blah, 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 blah. But Dr. Paradise was trying to make him see that how he was misrepresenting the information that he was telling Dr. Now, even with the divorce situation, how he misrepresented that initially. So Dr. Paradise want him to log the things that he has been misrepresenting, what he tells people versus what the reality is, and this he hopes will help him to start embrace the truth. Dr. Paradise also wants him to track what he's been doing, as far as not just as far as his weight loss, but also the positive behaviors that he's been taking. And that way he can see over time the accumulation of the positive behaviors that he's been doing. And Dr. Now feels like, Dr. Paradise feels like he will start to show progress in his weight loss journey once he starts being honest with himself. At month 9, we see where William is journaling. He says he's following up, Dr. Paradise has been following up with him. So he wanted to start doing the stuff that he was supposed to do. So he was even dragging his feet on that as well. So he says he knows he tends to bend the truth, but he says that he does that out of fear of people being upset with him. So now he started doing his journaling, and he also is making a goal board. He's also having like a reward system for whenever he meets certain milestones. He can earn certain things, as far as like, maybe buying a new video game, or, new shoes or something like that. So that seems a bit promising, but we'll see. William doesn't really have a good track record so far of following through. So later we see where he takes his mom out to eat. He says, in his conversations with his mom, he tends to keep things surface level, but he wants to have a deeper conversation with her. And so he confesses to her that he hasn't really been following the diet like he says he was, which didn't seem to really be news to her. So she didn't really say a whole lot about that. But he says that that's what the food journal is for. Then he says that, he has been telling everyone in the past that he's been okay, but then in reality he wasn't. And so he has been masking a lot of things. He tells his mom how he's always felt lonely, even when he was younger, and even when people were around, that he felt lonely. And his mom said he didn't really know that. She apologized for that. And she said that, if she had known that he was going through that, then she would have tried to get him some help. And so he goes on to tell her about the token system, and he'll give her the tokens, and then when he earns them, then she'll give it to him, whatever it is that he's earned. And so she's excited. She's noting, happy for the, prospect of him following through this time. She's excited to be able to give him the tokens. So, we'll see how that goes. She's also happy with the fact that they're having more than a surface level conversation now. So, back. Month 10, they're back to Dr. Now. And I was very nervous about this visit. So he says he's excited to see where his weight comes in, and he's tried really hard than he has before. He says he also plans to confess to Dr. Now that he hasn't been honest and sticking with the plan. But I don't know, when he came to this point and he's heading back to Dr. Now again, he didn't look like he lost any weight to me. But last time he was at 598, and this time his weight comes in at 588. So not very far from what he was before. He says that he's really been trying hard, and he's feeling like he's destined for failure. So Dr. Na comes in, asks what's going on. William says that the night before he had a conversation with his uncle, and then he realized that there were things that he was hiding and holding on to, and it was things related to how his grandma died, and family thought it was his fault, and that he was holding on to stuff and eating to make him feel better. And I was like, here we go again. He always has a story. He always has some reason as to why he can't do what he's supposed to do. And he always comes with something that seems to be like an emotional thing that can't be proven or disproven. And I wonder about this revelation that he's coming up with, because his mom didn't say anything about that, about him being blamed for his grandma. He didn't really give any details about why he would have felt that his grandma dying was his fault. Dr. Now says he hasn't been truthful about his eating habits, and he confessed that He hasn't been truthful. Dr. Now tells him that he's been lying to himself and he keeps repeating the same things over and over. And, after a while, he's going to start believing. He's starting to believe the lies that he's telling himself. He tells him that he needs to work on it in therapy. And he says that in 10 months, you've only lost 4 pounds. Once again, Dr. Now says there's not much that I can do for you unless you lose the weight. And he also tells Dr. Now that he's still working in fast food. He says he's looking for a job, but unfortunately he hasn't found anything else, and he can't really leave that job until he finds something else. So Dr. Now tells him that he needs to maintain his therapy and lose the weight. And once again, there's nothing he can do until he loses the weight. His mom was kind of angry with him because of where they are. And Dr. Now says in his confessional that he's pretty much at the same weight that he was before. So he's pretty much done with William. There'll be no more follow-ups, no more check-ins. And he hopes that at some point that William will wake up and see how severe the problem is and, do what he needs to do to make a change. So month 12, since he started the journey, we see William. He says he's pushing himself harder and he's stepping things up, taking ownership of what goes in his body. His mom is no longer cooking for him. We see where he's meal prepping, which is a good sign based on what we're seeing. He's prepping veggies and it looks like maybe chicken breast. He says he's trying to find a new job and that he's quit soda. Later we see where William and his mom are going for a walk. He says they do that a lot now and that kind of helps him get out the house, and having the company helps him stay active, and that he's keeping up with his therapy. So he says he's trying to change his dishonest behavior, that he hasn't given up, and that, something is awoken inside of him, and he's more driven to lose the weight. So ultimately, 12 months, and William barely lost any weight. So it does appear, though, that in this most recent scene that maybe he's finally taking it seriously. So we'll see how that goes. But ultimately, he wasted Dr. Now's time. But I'm hopeful for him because he's still on his therapy. And it looks like he's making some changes with his diet. So good luck to him. We'll see what happens if we ever see any news online. I didn't go online and look to see if there's any update on him since the show. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on the episode. What do you think of this whole saga with William? Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.